Welcome back. Well, what I got here is a typical dilemma, what always happens to all of us. We buy a machine, we have to tool up. Some people can just afford to go buy exactly new stuff. I can't. So we go hunting, we go on eBay, we make some bids. And usually you make a bunch of low bids, set the most you'll bid and just let it fly. Well, good luck, bad luck, this is what happens. I've done a video on this and I posted some pictures, but this is part of the scenario. So this chuck, it's an old Craftsman chuck, a 101 21650. I picked up from basically a guy that was scrapping out. He's an antiques dealer and he sells, the scrap metal. He just sells to a scrap metal guy. And I mentioned to him, I got friends with him over the years of buying little things from him, getting to know him. And I mentioned him, if he comes across any tooling, lathe, machines, just give me a call. And he gave me a call. This was a rusted piece of junk. It was $5. Couldn't pass it up. Got it working, and a great thing, this is the spindle. I'm doing a conversion on a Seneca Falls lathe from the late 1800s. The headstock was converted back in the 50s, as far as I was told when I first picked it up, for a wood lathe, and they put a solid shaft and got rid of the regular spindle. So I found a South Bend headstock that was basically stripped for parts, all the gears, but it did have the spindle, and I did a conversion. It's looking pretty. I put it together once. I took a back part, massaging it, still making a couple things, but I'm working on some jaws here. So I gotta need a jaw. I gotta need some jaws to use the lathe. So this ended up being perfect. All I had to do on the shoulder, right above the threads, on the inside, it was just a little too tight. I thought when I first tried, I thought it was just rust, but it was just a different diameter, so I just basically took a thousandths off, just a skim cut, and that worked out perfectly. So I got a 5-inch chuck for $5 and a couple of minutes of work. Then in my own collection, I picked it up, so I don't remember how long I picked up ago. I think I did pick it up for the Seneca Falls lathe. I picked up this jet chuck. Didn't pay much for it. I don't honestly remember. But, yeah, three mountain hole. I knew I'd use it sooner or later, so I ordered a backing plate. Figured I'd just make a backing plate for it, then I'll have a 6-inch chuck. And when I got it in, I never really measured the chuck. You just look at it, you think it's 6 inches. The holes just aren't big enough. So after measuring the chuck, it's like 6 1/4. It's an oddball sized chuck. I looked and looked and looked. I couldn't find a backing plate for it, so I ended up ordering a 8-inch one. I went the cheaper route. It was no holes, no nothing. It's gonna need full machine. It's totally flat. So I'm gonna have to machine the whole thing, but it was $39 shipped. It's going to take a couple weeks to get here, but I'll take care of that when I get it. So, well, now I have a backing plate, and it doesn't work on the chuck. So, I went on eBay and made a couple bids on a couple 6-inch chucks, and I ended up winning this chuck. No brand name on it. It came in a Shop Fox box, so it could be Grizzly, Shop Fox. They have, a billion different companies that sold by the same, generic maker. But it spins nice and freely. It came with, 2 sets of jaws, in there and outer, the wrench, the bolts. I haven't even cleaned it yet, but I spun the jaws. It works nice and smooth. The good news is the backing plate matches up with the bolts, no problem. So I just have to machine the inside diameter to match, and then I'm gonna have a nice 6-inch chuck. So that'll be good. So I have a 5-inch and a 6-inch, and once I get the backing plate for the 6 1/4 inch, I have a backing plate for the 6 1/4 inch. Then on my smaller Atlas lathe, I have a bunch of 4-inch chucks, so I figured, hey, I can just get a backing plate machine to fit, and mark it on both, for the chuck for the Atlas and for the chuck for this, mark it on there, so I can just swap it back and forth if I need a small chuck. So I bought a little backing plate, and the ad, it did say drilled 3-hole chuck, and it came in blank. So I called them up. They just refunded me and said keep it. It's not worth paying the shipping back and forth. So I have a blank chuck that I probably will end up, just transfer punching holes and have it ready for when I come across another chuck, or do like I thought. I have a 4-jaw little chuck on the Atlas lathe that I can convert. So I'm going to put that aside and machine that. So I went looking. I don't know why. I didn't need a 4-inch chuck, but after I ran into this problem, I said, let me look, see what's out there. And I came across a good deal on eBay, 4-inch chuck with a backing plate, and made a little bid, $79, both pieces. I got it. I don't know how, but same thing, no name. Really just looks like a Shaw's chuck, doesn't have the Shaw's name tag on there, like they're all imported. But I did come across this exact backing plate on my Atlas lathe. This is way just too big, too deep, so you have to take off, 3/8 of an inch, 7/16 of an inch, and maybe even machine it a little bit for the weight, for the stick out. It's way too much, but it's it'll be a handy little chuck. And geez, looking at it right now, I don't think the holes line up. No, they do. Just my eyesight here. So I have a lot of, once I get the lathe, I have to put the headstock back together and get up and running. I'll run this Craftsman one first because it's all set to go. I'll play with it and see how the lathe works. Then I'll probably just start with the little chuck and work my way up and machine a lot of backing plates. Like I say, same thing with this one. I'm going to be taking this one at least a 7/16 of an inch deck it. Then I might even take off some outside diameter, but maybe I'll see how it looks on there. It's a lot of weight. But so that's my chuck story. Good deal. I mean, I'm gonna have 4, 5, 6, and 6 1/4 inch chucks for fairly reasonable money. And of course, the little 4-jaw chuck did come with inside and outside jaws, the wrench, and everything. So pretty good deal. I wish I didn't need all of them, but I got them. So hopefully this lathe runs. I still have to put it together and be able to use it. But the good news is I just checked the tool posts on this lathe will take a 1/2 inch bit. So all those bits I got in my storage Dale locker, flip the guy did. I bid on a bunch of tools and I won it. Bunch of big tools that my other lathe won't handle, but this lathe will handle all the 1/2 inch. I got carbide and high-speed steel bits, so at least I'll be able to put that to use. So good news. So look at that video if you haven't seen it yet. And I got one hell of a score of tooling. So this is my chuck story. I'll bring you back when I machine the chucks. I'll bring you back for the first running of the lathe with the little Craftsman 5-inch on there, and we'll see you then. Have a good night, or good morning, wherever you are.